Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Auto Central week, South Africa's #1 motoring podcast, powered by South Africa's #1 marketplace, AutoTrader.co.za. And I'm your host, George Mienie, and I have opposite me, as usual, Wandile Sishi. How's it, Wandi?
Hey, George, how are you? As usual, here again, like you said. You can also find us on YouTube. I think it's important to just definitely highlight that, you know.
It's a good point. We're definitely on YouTube every week. You can watch us, listen to us anywhere. You can listen to us on YouTube. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us on Apple iTunes, Spotify, Iona, CliffCentral.com, and the podcast goes out every Monday morning, 9 a.m. There's a brand new one, but listen anytime you want.
Yeah. Maybe one day we'll be on TV. Who knows?
We're already on TV, but not with a show.
Yeah.
So. Good. What are we talking about today? New and used.
So why has consumer demand shifted to the used space? Things have obviously the world is a different place now, and car shoppers are different people now, and it looks like lots of the consumer attention and demand has shifted onto the online space. So hopefully we can kind of unpack what are the pros and cons of both, because obviously I think it depends on who you are and what your situation is.
Let's have a go. So, I mean, the reason we say that is because on AutoTrader's marketplace platform, we have experienced between a 40 and 50% growth in traffic and conversion over the last couple of months since the beginning of lockdown. I mean, AutoTrader's traffic was growing, pretty much double digit nonetheless, but it's almost tripled to quadrupled. Over the last couple of months, and that's an indication of consumer demand. So, why is this the case? And what we also know is that new car sales have declined by double digits in north of 20%, close to 40, sometimes 30, and that's sad to see. But why? Why the shift? What do you think?
Honestly, I think it's just financial strain, and I prefer used cars just because of the financial benefits that come with it. And I think with coronavirus, people are not necessarily, I don't think people have less money. I think it's more so it's future-proofing your potential, finances. We've seen people sometimes downgrade, for instance. I think it's different things kind of impact that. But for a lot of people, I think used is just becoming a little bit more popular in terms of what you can get out of a vehicle.
Well, I mean, like you say, different strokes for different folks. And, but is it a case that when you opt for a used car over a new car, and I mean, let's not get this wrong. New car is an important thing.
It's the first step, right?
Yeah, it's the first. It's the feeder into the used car market. So, we can't say one is better than the other.
No, definitely.
It's important to have a used car market, and it's important to have a new car market because of how new car feeds the used car. But nonetheless. When you buy a used car, is it really about spending less, or is it about getting more for your money?
For me, I can only speak for myself, and I think a lot of people feel that with a used car, you get a little bit more
for your money.
Yeah. For an example, I think we had an article recently where we spoke about if you get a Ranger, Hilux, or I think it was a D-Max, with less than 5,000 Ks, that's like a 2019 model, you can almost knock out almost 100,000 rand off of that purchase.
Yeah. For the same car.
For the same car.
I mean, obviously
the new, but it's still less than 5,000. It's basically brand new.
Yeah.
That's a huge saving that a lot of people would kind of gravitate towards.
Especially at this time.
Especially at this time, yeah. And I think if you go even higher, if you go to like supercars, for instance, unless it's a super rare supercar or it's appreciated, you end up, saving hundreds of thousands of rands off of a used counterpart, which is kind of a no-brainer for a lot of people.
Especially at this time. I mean, where everybody's feeling the financial pinch, and some people have lost their jobs, other people have got salary cuts, and and that's not coming back in spades either. So I suppose there's a benefit of both. You can buy a less expensive used car with a similar spec to new. So maybe those are the benefits of buying used, is you can buy an up-spec car. What are the benefits of buying new though?
it's brand new. I think
That smell.
that smell is there. And on top of that as well, kind of the surety that there's probably nothing that's going to go wrong anytime soon.
Unless it's a dud.
Unless
which
it's like
is
a recall.
infrequent,
Yeah, it doesn't really happen much. So that's the big thing. I think when you buy used, you always have to do 1,001 checks just to make sure that you're getting exactly what you're paying for.
Yeah.
It's so easy to go into a dealership and you know they're always going to clean the car and make it look good and make it, you know, you can get the new car smell now in used cars if you want.
Or did you get like a spray bottle?
Yeah, like a
new
spray
car
bottle.
smell?
Yeah, you know, so you can still get the same sort of experience. But if you don't know the inner workings of a vehicle and you don't know how to go and see, is this an OEM part?
Yeah.
Is this like you could potentially be robbed, not robbed, but I guess cheated of what they said versus what you're getting. Whereas with new, unless the OEM is like, which would never happen, you're gonna get exactly what you're paying for.
Well, I suppose, you know, you get a guaranteed warranty.
That's also a big plus.
You get sometimes service plans, and you know, those last for a long time. But you know, what's the downside? Downside is new car depreciates really quickly when you drive
Extremely
it.
quickly. Yeah. I think I was doing some research and I saw that in the first around year you lose, I think it's like 20% of the value of the vehicle the moment you drive off the showroom floor,
which is used car effectively.
Yeah, it becomes exactly, which is scary. Whereas with used cars, they don't depreciate nearly as fast as a brand new car.
So I guess depending on how someone finances their new car, you know, you're not going to be able to sell that new car if you finance it, you know, with heavy balloon payments and those kinds of things very quickly. Because if, you know, let's take a 200,000 rand car. If you're saying you know, it depreciates by 20% when you drive it off the showroom floor, that immediately it's only worth 180,000 rand.
And you just drove it.
Well, sorry, 160,000 rand.
Yeah.
And it's still brand new. You've got 5 kilometers on the clock. It's registered. It's new, but it's used. So 160,000 rand car, which you've just bought for 200,000 rand, and you financed it for 200. How long does it take before that finance reaches 160,000?
Not very long. It's, you know, probably it's so quick. Like the cars just depreciate so fast right now that
but you're talking about the depreciation. I'm talking about the finance. Like, how long does it take before you've paid it 200,000 and you owe 160?
Yeah. I always say that when you buy a car, it's not. I don't look at the value as the ultimate kind of. That's the worth of the vehicle. I think it's for somebody who's buying a new car, they want not the price isn't the biggest factor, but rather the experience of it. So like my cars, I put it far more above the worth that the book value is, just simply because it gives me a lot more. It allows me a lot of things. And additionally, with a new car, you can also spec it the way you want to, which adds to that experience and that value. So for a lot of people who buy new, I just lost 20% by driving it off. But what did I gain in terms of my personal experience and my value of the vehicle?
You better be sure that if you financed it heavily, that experience and benefit you talk about actually lasts for the time period that brings the finance levels down. Because chances are you're not going to get down to 160,000 rands value in the finance for a good 2 years.
Yeah, definitely not.
Especially if you finance that car over 5 years or 72 months with a balloon payment.
Yeah, and also if you're going to be selling that new car, you just paid 20,000 rand for panoramic roof or whatever. It's not going to be worth 20,000 rand when you try and resell it.
You're going to get some value for it, but not 20 grand. Probably depreciate it just like the car.
The car did, and those nuances that you've added to them, they're not necessarily going to be extremely important to everybody else. So if you get cow print leather seats or something.
What the cow in your car? Cow.
Maybe like cow print.
Like a cow face on the seat because you've got a cow in the back seat.
Yeah, those sort of things aren't going to be as important to the next buyer, and it's going to ultimately almost be expenditure for you. But somebody else who sees it is going to see it as the value has gone down now because you put a cow print leather seats in the car.
Cow print leather seats. Well, there's argument to say that over the last 10 years, car prices have increased by around 140,000 rand in the new car world on average.
It seems like a lot. It seems like, whoa, 140,000 rand for the same vehicle 10 years ago, or same model rather 10 years ago.
Well, I mean, average new car prices now what? Just over 300,000 rand.
Yeah, for a new car on average.
On average, I mean, it's closer to 400 now, but.
Yeah.
But the increase at 140, that makes it almost over the last 10 years, 50% increase
Yeah.
in new car prices. Why is that?
Two things. I think just generally inflation is just a real thing. Cars have become a lot better. And if you put it in perspective to how much housing prices have increased, I mean, they've more than doubled. I think it's almost 3 times the price that they were. Salaries have also increased greatly. I think people are on average in South Africa are earning almost double what they were earning. So I think it's moved with the markets. And actually, if you take all those things to account, you start seeing that cars aren't necessarily that much more expensive. They just are more expensive.
Yeah.
But I think also entry level cars now give you a lot more than.
Well, there's a lot more entry level cars in the market.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. You can buy entry level cars. It doesn't make them, affordable by some people that are looking to get into a car. Let's say somebody coming out directly out of university and haven't been born with a silver spoon.
Yeah.
Then it's very difficult.
Banks have also made it a lot easier. It's not
I think that there's a problem there. Yeah, banks have made it a lot easier, and that's what we were talking about just now.
Yeah.
You finance the car heavily. And the
Okay.
banks make it easy, right?
Of course, yeah.
You're going to get out of that car in 2 to 3 years.
Well, that's the thing, right? They also have to. They're running a business as well.
True.
But everybody wins in that scenario. The consumer gets the car that they wanted, potentially would have never been able to get in the next 2 years or whatever they were planning. But the bank also makes a little bit of extra money. And when you talk about leasing cars and subscriptions of cars, it's the same thing. You pay a little bit extra, but it's small amounts which ultimately don't total the total value of the vehicle.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's right. We were looking at the value of used cars, and you were pointing out the savings you can get, and some of those examples are Ford Ranger, Toyota Hilux, Isuzu D-Max. All on average had more than 80,000 rand savings in 2020 with models less than 5,000 rand, 5,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
Versus their new counterparts, which at 80,000 rand, what percentage is it of the new price? Probably at least about a 20-15% discount.
Yes, it's that 1 year thing where the moment you drive it off, you lose all that value.
Yeah.
But it's not the same for all models, right? I think it really just depends on the demand of the vehicle as well.
Yeah.
Like we see with Ferraris, they appreciate it as soon as you drive it off, which is strange.
Depends
all
on
of
which
them.
one.
Yeah, the super rare ones.
Yeah, it's like Porsche too.
Yeah,
Depends on which ones.
So that's kind of the sort of things that as a consumer you need to sort of consider when you're buying the car. Do some research. If you're buying used, those are also the nuances that you have to consider.
Well, it's if you're getting a saving like that, do you take the cash saving, or do you say, okay, I'm going to take some of that 80,000 that I'm going to save, and I'm going to make sure this car's got an extended warranty. I'm going to make sure that it's got an extended service plan, or do some other checks to make sure that you're not buying a lemon potentially.
I think there's 2 schools of thoughts there. The first one being yes, just take the money and
well, not all of it. I'm going to spend
some of it
$80,000
and do something else, or you can just get a better, like a higher spec model.
Well, there we go. That's what I said in the beginning.
Yeah.
Do consumers really save on used car, or do they just buy a higher spec?
I would totally buy a higher spec.
Yeah.
That would be my go-to.
Yes.
Simply because I like speed. Short answer. So I would definitely go for something a little bit more, I don't know, faster or go sideways a bit better.
Well, it's talking about speed.
Yeah.
We have one of our expert journalists here with us. Not going to join us on Zoom.
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous of this gentleman.
Wow. Because you got to drive this car.
Yeah, it's currently my favorite car in the world.
Okay, let's not let the cat out the bag yet.
No.
Let's let Sean let the cat out the bag, and then tell us all about this need for speed.
Yeah.
So I reckon let's try and make him appear. Should we go? 1,
Let's try it.
2, 3.
Boom.
Well, that brings us to have Sean Nurse magically appear in the studio. How's it,
Yeah.
Sean?
Really good and you, George.
Good.
Great to be here.
Good. We teleported you like in Star Trek.
It was great. So quick.
Yeah.
Talking about quick, well, maybe you got here in a Porsche 911 Turbo S.
Yeah, I have to tell you guys, this is the fastest car I've ever driven in my life. And that's saying something. I've driven a few, having done this for about 8 years now. So to say that this is the quickest car I've driven is quite something.
And that's all round quickness, right? It's not just like straight line speed or anything like that. Just a general
all around quickness. Is that a thing?
Just, I think, in terms of sprinting ability, like to put in perspective, if you had to say that a car does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in around 8.9 seconds, you'd say that's an average consumer car, like a little Polo TSI.
Yeah.
Well, the Turbo S does 0 to 200 kilometers an hour in 8.9 seconds.
So let's put that in perspective. So if you do 0 to 100 in say 9 seconds with a regular car, and let's say you have an inexperienced driver that's not Sean, that can do 3 seconds in a Turbo S, just to kind of keep the numbers round, right? That is roughly about 2.8 times faster, right? So, and it does 0 to 200 in 9 seconds. Okay, so what's the I mean, this might be a bit of a maths conundrum. What's the distance? So if they all pull off from a traffic light, both pull off from a traffic light, and in 9 seconds time, you measure how far they are apart. What would the distance be?
It'd be a lot. I don't even think you'd see the Polo TSI, for example. You won't see it in your rearview mirror anymore. It'd be gone.
Because you've got like you're traveling at 200 k's an hour, and you're doing that in 9 seconds in the Porsche.
Yeah. From a standstill to 200 in just under 9 seconds. It's crazy performance.
Unbelievable.
I mean, this vehicle is doing a lot of waves, I think, generally in the motoring world. People just weren't anticipating how quick it was going to be. The previous model was amazing. And I think when this one came out, it shocked the world. I mean, if you put it with a Huracan, for instance, I don't think it can compete.
Yeah, the thing about Porsche turbo models, even before they introduced Turbo S and the like, is that for the sort of upper echelons of a sports car price, which this car is 3.8 million rand, I'm not trying to say that it's cheap, but the performance on offer is far greater than most cars that cost almost twice as much. So you have more acceleration and more straight line performance than cars costing 6 million rand.
Well, I mean, it's faster than supercars.
Yeah, it is supercar performance for sports car price.
And everybody, I love Porsche. The 911 is one of my favorite car. One of my favorite cars. It's probably second to Tesla. But the one thing that Porsche's kind of been successful at doing is positioning itself as a everyday driver's sports car. So you could double it up as driving to work, as well as you got yourself a supercar. That's
been the appeal of the 911, and I think the Turbo S really epitomizes that. It's got 3 different driving modes, well, 4 if you count the wet mode, but you've got a normal, a sport, and a sport plus. And if
you would drive it outside of sport plus.
I put it in normal just because it's so angry all the time. In sports plus, it just wants to go all the time.
Didn't you say something about like it feels like it was a kill you all the time?
Yeah, that's its sibling, the GT3 RS. That car feels like it wants to harm you most of the time you're driving it. The Turbo S is a bit more tame, but there'll probably be a GT2 RS based on this Turbo S that will be rear-wheel drive only, whereas this Turbo S is 4-wheel drive. So it's quite sure-footed, and it's got this sort of Jekyll and Hyde personality. When it's in normal mode, it's very relaxed, nice ride quality, it's quiet. And then you switch it into Sport Plus mode, it's got an active exhaust, becomes louder, the gearbox becomes ferocious in terms of its shifts and the way that it changes gears so quickly. It just makes for a really nice daily sports car drive.
So you said 3.8 million. That's almost the same price as the Porsche Taycan. So I want to ask you, I think you've driven that too.
Yes.
But before we go, I mean, I'm interested in the Porsche Taycan answer. But what makes this so fast?
So the car's got 4-wheel drive. It's got a newly developed, if you're an anorak like me, you'll say it's a 3.7 litre engine, but Porsche's rounded up to a 3.8 litre engine, 2 turbochargers, produces 478 kilowatts and 800 newton meters of torque. They actually had to physically reinforce the 8-speed dual clutch gearbox to handle the torque. So it's got a slightly shorter first gear and a longer final drive, so that you can do 330 k's an hour. That's its top speed. And the shorter first gear, so you can get from 0 to 100 in 2.7. So they've just done this for top speed and acceleration. So
is the middle lacking?
I wouldn't say so. No, it's pretty scary most of the time. It's just it's obviously not like Taycan is like a light switch. Literally, it's electric, so the acceleration is instantaneous. Whereas the Porsche, you still have that delay for the gear. You have to wait for the gearbox to go and for the turbo.
Not much of a delay though. It's not like a delay. It's like it's just slow.
Well, let's get into Wandy's question. The Taycan. I mean, you've driven both, right?
Yeah, actually, I was lucky to drive them sort of back to back at this event just to compare the two, and it's like two different ways of getting to the same destination. They both do 0 to 100 in less than 3 seconds. They're both exceptionally fast in gear, but
doesn't the Taycan do 0 to 20 and faster?
Much faster, yeah. It's scary actually. You have to, in both cars, you have to tell your passenger, look, put your neck against the headrest, because it actually hurts your neck. If
Imagine telling somebody that.
Yeah,
and you have to give him like you're flying. You have to give him a little.
Exactly.
And this is what you have to do. Is like a pre-flight check.
And nobody believes you until they actually go in the car and you accelerate for the first time using launch control. It's unbelievable. You cannot believe that something is that fast.
Well, they say that's like, in electric cars, your brain doesn't catch up immediately. And I'm guessing because the 911 Turbo S is so fast, it's a similar sort of experience. Your brain takes a second or two, 2.0, to catch up.
I would say from 0 to 60 kilometers an hour, I just felt like I was along for the ride. I was letting the car do its thing. Like I didn't really know what was happening or what had just happened to me the first time I did it. After that, you kind of used to the G-forces, but that initial first time you launch that car, that and the Taycan, it's incredible. There's no words to describe it. You have to experience it to know what it's like. It's crazy.
And at 3.8 million rand, what luxuries have you got in this car?
So it's fairly well equipped. It's not like your back to basics GT Porsche product. So you get things like wireless Apple CarPlay, color touchscreen infotainment system, cruise control. There's also this cruise control, yeah. if you're into that sort of thing. It's also got this really cool feature. They've got this acoustic system in the wheel well that detects raindrops or moisture. So as soon as the car detects moisture, a little message pops up on the dashboard saying you should switch to rain mode to keep you safe.
Oh.
So it's got these really cool little features. I mean, basically all the in-car tech that you could possibly want from a car. They're not too big on the semi-autonomous driving functionality. Obviously in a 911 it's more about the drive, but that's reserved for things like the Taycan. So I think it's got enough in the way of luxury. Everything's covered in leather. All the materials feel like they're going to last a while. So I'd say it's solid inside.
Solid inside. Well, I could speak about the
I know, it's mind-blowing, but just
and the Taycan for the rest of the day.
But if you had the money for both, which one? Or there's just completely two different things altogether.
Look, I think that's why Porsche market them so differently, because I think you've got different buyers buying those cars. If it were my money, it would probably be the 911 Turbo S as an all-round car to use as a daily driver. But I do love the idea of having a Taycan as daily transport. Don't have to visit a fuel station. You can charge it at home like your phone. And then having one of their special GT cars over the weekend. That's sort of the dream.
That would be ideal. And you were before the show we were chatting, and the Taycan is the only electric car with 2 gears.
Yeah. So if you get past the savagery of the launch, you do it a couple of times, you can actually feel the car shifting into its second gear.
Oh, is it?
So that's what allows the Taycan to have quite a high top speed in relation to other electric cars.
And it's the only electric car with 800 volts, you were saying.
Yeah, so when Porsche designed it, they wanted to future-proof it for future charging projects when we get like hyper-fast charging where you can probably charge your car up in 10 minutes to a full charge. So they sort of future-proofed the architecture of the Taycan by doing it as an 800 volt system. Most of your Teslas and cars like that are 400 volt. The problem is an 800 volt is expensive, and that's why the Taycan is so much more expensive than the likes of a Model S. So you always pay for it at the end.
Well, I suppose, I mean, like in the future, you're not going to be comparing the Taycan to the Model S, you're going to be comparing the Taycan to the new Roadster. Which could be in a similar price category. So I suppose that's all we have time for on the Porsche Turbo S. But very finally, Sean, overall rank out of 10.
I think this is a very rare 9 out of 10. This car, for me, I don't think I've given too many cars that sort of rating. Yeah.
What would beat the Turbo S in terms of what would get a 10 out of 10? The Taycan.
One of its siblings, I like the GT cars. So a GT3 RS is normally my type of car. So that's a 9.5. I don't think there's ever a perfect car, but that's a 9.5 car.
So your review on the car is live.
Yes, it is.
Go to autotrader.co.za and go and read Sean's experience on the Turbo S. And at the moment, you can find 13 previous generations of the Turbo S on autotrader.co.za. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Our very own Sean Nurse. Thank you for coming in, Sean. And we're going to try and teleport you back.
Thank you.
Go, 3, 2, 1. Well, there you have it. Our very own Sean Nurse, expert motoring journalist, and very lucky to have driven the.
Yeah.
Turbo
Honestly,
S.
that car, I've been watching videos of it for a while now, and it's just as unbelievable as he says it is. I can't wait one day, please, to get in one of those things, because it's just insane. It's insane. Yeah. Anyways.
Well, let's get on to Ask AutoTrader. What questions do we have today, Wandile?
So 3 questions today. The first one's from Gofarane, I think. But the question is it possible to sell my car while it's still being financed?
Well, I mean, the short answer is you can put your car up for sale while it's financed. You absolutely can. But you can't, the new owner can't take title of the car until you've settled that finance. So you can't sell your car and still be paying off your own finance. No, the bank's not going to allow you to do that. As a matter of fact, license involvement's not going to allow you to change ownership, or allow the other person to change ownership. So you have to settle the finance when you get the money.
As soon as possible.
Settle out the outstanding debt. I mean, I suppose it's kind of a no-brainer that you can't finance something and then sell it and then continue paying the finance, because the other person. Well, not what's the point. I don't think the bank's going to allow it. So the answer is no. Gufwani, you can't have sold your car if it is still financed. You can put it up for sale while it's financed. That's not a problem. Put it on autotrader.co.za and get it sold.
Definitely.
Next question.
So the next question is from Alex. Something that I get asked all the time on WhatsApp, on pretty much everywhere. How do I advertise in your magazine, AutoTrader?
This is a very interesting question. Alex, I'm sorry to tell you, we shut the magazine in 2017.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore. So you can't advertise in our magazine because we don't have one. And I'm not sorry about that. The magazine was a good point of history of AutoTrader, but we're now a digital business, and it's a lot more fun.
A lot more fun. You get a lot more value as somebody who's selling your car, more eyeballs.
I mean, AutoTrader is now more than 20 times bigger than it was when it was a magazine business.
It's a no-brainer.
So Alex, unfortunately, no. Sorry, there's no magazine. You can't advertise in AutoTrader magazine anymore because it doesn't exist. But you can go on to autotrader.co.za/sell your car, or just go onto the main homepage and go and click on the menu and go sell your car. And your options to sell start from 549 Rand. You will get access to people doing 45 million searches for cars a month on the biggest auto marketplace in South Africa. So, and these are serious buyers that will be looking for your car. As long as you priced it in the sweet spot,
you definitely find a.
You should find a buyer.
Yeah.
And if you don't, there's something wrong with the price, or there's low demand for the actual make and model.
Mm-hmm.
Question 3.
Question 3 from Waya. Can I use TBC, the billion coin, to buy a car? So this is like a crypto.
Well, I had to Google that.
Yeah.
because TBC the billion. If you Google it, there is a crypto coin called TBC the billion.
Yeah.
But let's talk about cryptocurrency as a whole. The long answer is unfortunately we can't.
Not yet, at least. I know in some, not in the automotive industry, but I know in some places you can actually use crypto. But I think just in South Africa, it's not really.
No, well, you can't. Not now. And dealerships only accept official South African rands.
Yeah, you can believe. It's very understandable why. It's
Yeah.
very hard to track. In fact, it's impossible to track.
It's not really been adopted by banks in South Africa as a form of value exchange.
Yeah.
So while there is value there, but not in South Africa, unfortunately, you can't buy a car using TBC billion or any other crypto for that matter.
Yeah.
So that's all we have time for. Wendy, any final thoughts?
I'm definitely gonna be calling Sean and Porsche if they're listening.
You want to get into
Please.
a Porsche?
Yeah. Just give me a ride. But yeah, stay driving. Nothing else.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Our very own Wandile Sishi, and I'm your host, George Mienie, and until next time.